Good evening. My name is Michael McCluskey. I'm with the Lower Colorado River Authority, and we're here tonight with the Power Across Texas Board Conclave. I have the pleasure tonight to be speaking with three esteemed colleagues, and we'll be talking about topics of general interest to the electric utility industry. Gentlemen, if you would each introduce yourselves.
Sure, Mike. I'm Carl Edlund, and I'm the director of the division that handles air, waste, and toxics matters for EPA's Region 6 office. That's in Dallas, and we cover Texas and the 4 surrounding states.
Thank you.
I'm Jesse Berst. I'm the publisher of Smart Grid News. That's the internet's oldest and largest smart grid site.
And I'm Bryan Shaw. I'm the chairman of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, located in Austin, Texas.
Thank you, Bryan. Well, gentlemen, I think I'll start with Carl. Carl,
Okay.
There's been a lot of press lately about EPA's greenhouse gas emissions permitting program. We understand that the EPA is prepared to start to issue greenhouse gas permits as part of the PSD permit process here in Texas. Can you just share some details about that program and how you expect that to work?
There isn't a form to fill out. There is a guideline attached there, and we're encouraging sources that are subject to the rule to, first of all, they need to be aware of it, and if there is, if the greenhouse gas rule is applicable to them, they ought to get in touch with us and submit an application, which would include an applicability determination, this best available control technology review. Because it's a federal permit, we also have to look at the National Historic Preservation Act and the Endangered Species Act, and that has to be addressed in the application. EPA will review that and propose a permit, take public comment, and issue it. Now, we're also reaching out to Texas, TCEQ, to make sure that we can coordinate as best we can while we're in this mode of having dual permitting.
Sure.
And frankly, the agency's desire is that the state be able to do that permitting, but since they can't, we'll try to work to ensure we can get there.
Jesse, I'd like to ask you, when you look out over the landscape and you look at the power industry in general, and particularly from a consumer's perspective, what do you see being the new products and services that electric consumers are going to be demanding from their power suppliers over the next decade?
I think that's one of the big surprises that's awaiting the electric power industry. For the past 100 years or so, we've had a very passive, disinterested consumer due to our regulated monopolies, but that's changing very rapidly. They have so much choice, so much control in other aspects of their lives. They're beginning to demand that same kind of choice and opportunity in the power sector. In many American families, this varies widely by climate and region, but in many American families, they spend about the same each year for transportation, telecommunications, and electricity. Now, in those first two, they have so much choice. You know, I can commute, I can take a Prius, I can take a bus, etc., and I can get cell phone plans. I have a blizzard of choices on the telecommunications side. But in electric power, in many states, you have one choice, take it or leave it. It's a one-size-fits-all. Now, Texas has a bit more choice, and I think they're pioneering that, but that's going to be spreading widely, I think, throughout the country. What we're going to see is a little bit like trying to predict the internet applications in the early days of the internet, but I think you'll see calling plans for electricity, so you can choose the amount of reliability and the type of power. I think you're going to see the ability to choose the source of power. I think you're going to see a wide variety of energy services where companies, much like a home security monitoring system, a company will monitor you for a few dollars per month, will monitor and manage your energy for you as a service. And I think we're just going to have a cascade of new things. And you know what else? I think someday you'll go down to Walmart or Home Depot, and you may buy a prepaid card for electricity the way you do a prepaid card for cellular minutes. Walmart is today the world's largest reseller of cellular minutes. They're the world's largest pharmacy, and someday they or another big box retailer may be one of the world's largest reseller of electricity.
Bryan, question for you. You know Texas well, and you're familiar with the Texas economy and the resources here. And when you look at Texas, What do you predict over time, if there is such a thing, to be the limiting factor in Texas's long-term economic growth and population growth? Is it going to be energy supply or lack thereof, water supply or lack thereof? Are there other factors, or do you even believe that Texas has limits in terms of its long-term growth potential?
Well, the proper answer is that Texas is only limited by the imagination of the Texans that live here. But certainly, as you look at what the fundamental strengths that Texas has and what really drives the Texas economy, a lot of that is largely energy driven. And so we certainly see the reason, for example, that Texas is the largest consumer of coal, for example, is because we have a number of industries that are very energy intensive. We provide a lot of the raw materials for other states, and providing those raw materials is energy intensive. And so we are definitely tied to the source of cheap and affordable, reasonable energy as being one of those things that's necessary for our continued economic development and continued increase in our standard of living, frankly. And as you look at water, we certainly have limits there as well. We have plans in place to be able to try to ensure that our water needs are met going forward. Very similar to that, we try to make efforts to ensure that our energy needs are going to be met. And similar to some of the previous discussion you had with Mr. Edlund from EPA, some of the challenges, frankly, will be how do we ensure that Texas can move forward with reliable and affordable energy sources. Many of the regulatory issues that are pending today and a lot of the federal initiatives, either on purpose or as a side effect, necessarily increase the cost of energy. And that's one of those things that I think has made a lot of us in Texas very cautious and concerned about regulations, greenhouse gas and others that are, in order to affect the change that's desired from the federal government at this point, the goal is to raise the cost of sources of energy that are carbon intensive so that less carbon intensive sources such as solar or wind are more affordable by comparison. And the challenge with that, while certainly I think Texas can be a part of that solution, and we are motivated and conducting research to discover and prove the next cleaner sources of energy going forward, we have a great reliance and a great opportunity to use those natural resources, the coal, the natural gas, and others, to help fund our way toward that new energy future, as opposed to raising the cost and trying to prevent the use of those carbon-intensive energy resources that we have. My concern is that just raising the cost of that energy source will tend to move the production, move the manufacturing, move those jobs overseas, as opposed to really reducing the greenhouse gas emissions globally.
Well, gentlemen, one follow-up question. This is really an open question for all of you. And looking one more time into your crystal ball, what do you predict the big changes to be for the power industry over the next decade or so? And in particular, any changes in the Texas industry to the extent that Texas fares differently from the rest of the U.S.? Anyone?
Take a poke at it anyway. Initially, there's a couple of things I think that are really making large changes. One of them is the availability of natural gas. You know, now we have issues on the environmental side, but you know, that is a way of getting a clean fuel and a reliable fuel, and one that will not fluctuate in price because of the huge quantities that are being discovered. So you'll be able to get long-term natural gas contracts, and those will make a difference in how power is used. I think another thing, especially affecting or benefiting Texas, is renewable fuel standards. We don't have one yet, but there's bipartisan support for that concept. And you know, Texas now is one of some 30 states that have a renewable portfolio.
And I'll agree that certainly the natural gas is going to play a large role in the decision making with future generation sources. For example, as you look at the stability that's offered with natural gas, my hope is that we will allow the markets to determine what the winners and losers are and what level of natural gas and other sources of electric generation exist, because I think that diverse portfolio provides us economic and power stability, which is useful. But certainly the continued development of wind energy is one of those resources that Texas is taking advantage of and doing well. I would also agree that renewables, from the standpoint of some of the biofuels, has great potential. I would probably take a little bit different approach to getting there, as opposed to mandating a renewable fuel standard. I would like to see incentives that would further the science, for example, behind cellulosic ethanol production.
I don't know if I have a prediction, but I have a hope, and that is that Texas will continue to be a leader. You know, it has been such a pioneer in such important areas like integrating the renewables at scale, renewing our transmission, using demand response as an important resource, and giving choice and introducing choice and competition into the marketplace for customers.
Well, thank you very much for coming out and participating in this discussion tonight. I really
you,
appreciate
Michael.
your time.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right.
Okay,
Nice.
very good.